and welcome everyone to the 42nd, 43rd episode of Stuck in the Mail with woo, Glare City, even without a sleeve, Black Sabbath's third album, 1971's Master of Reality.
One like their third album in 1.5 years, right?
Yeah, yeah, basically. It's almost like their sophomore album, really, because those first two, especially the first, was recorded so quickly. And then, it's almost like they were really trying for something on that first album, and then came the hits. And then, I mean, talk about a sophomore follow-up. Master of Reality is considered one of the greatest heavy albums of all time. Um, and the interesting thing, of course, we just lost Ozzy, which was one of the reasons why we wanted to add in this pod. But the thing about Black Sabbath is, besides having working class roots in Birmingham, England, do you know the original name of Black Sabbath?
I think there were two original names, right? But one of them was Earth.
One of them was Earth, but the very, very, very first name was,
I'd have to consult Wikipedia,
it is the Polka Tuck Blues Band.
which makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you listen to like the earlier you go with Black Sabbath, the more bluesy it is. And I
Yep.
really love that. Like I really enjoy the improvisation, the drumming. I mean, this is just one of those bands where you have four virtuosos, and they seem to be there were so many bands like that back then where you knew everybody's name. And
Mhm.
I mean, and this is like your favorite band of all time, right?
This is certainly a band that I've been collecting, hoarding, I guess some would say, for maybe 5 years or so. Um, I kind of delved into their expanded catalog besides like the mainstream stuff, probably a couple decades ago, but I really gained a true appreciation for their catalog and its depth and worth. And it's hard to say any given day you can change albums, but there are a lot of people that consider Master Reality kind of the true opus, the true high point. It's kind of, easier to love more than Paranoid because, Paranoid's to some degree your beginner pick, because everyone knows Iron Man. Yes, everyone knows that terrible, terrible cover. What were they doing with that cover? I mean, that's one of the problems.
Yeah. Who's holding up the sword here?
I don't think it's a member of the band, but it is for a popular, successful album. Definitely one of the worst covers. There's there's no way anyone thinks that cover's any good. And if you do, well, certainly the look of it looks out of date and what they're trying doesn't work. And if they were even to try to redo it, it wouldn't work. But there it is for it stands for time. But Master Reality, of course, you've got the super simple, usually purple, and then usually like die cast or whatever, engraved or whatever it's called. But it does vary country to country. And there are people that collect just this album.
Hmm.
And there's a gal on Instagram that has like hundreds.
So you have to tell me how you got into Black Sabbath because this was not on my radar in high school. I
Yeah.
guess I had maybe heard a couple of Ozzy's solo hits on the radio, but or MTV, but I mean nobody I knew was listening to actual Black Sabbath.
It's true. Even though Sabbath was one of the greatest influences on the music we listened to, on the Soundgarden and Nirvanas and Smashing Pumpkins, it
Yep.
was like an unwritten, like kind of Black Sabbath to me when I was growing up was seen as kind of a hippie band, and there's
Mhm.
certainly, rationale for that as well. It's an old band, is kind of not quite cool. I think. I don't know when the actual pinpoint it was for me or for the populace that Sabbath really started getting all the credit they deserve.
Yep.
But when you just look at them and dissect them, like you just said, with them being four very talented musicians, all in their own right, and their sound that they actually ended up with, it was basically by accident. I think it was Geezer Butler that said, we changed to kind of having originally like a horror theme because people in droves were going in England to see these movies, and it was very popular. The Universal monsters and whatnots, the
Yep.
Draculas and Frankensteins had moved to England. So he said specifically, he said, "Wow, look at all these people paying to be scared."
Yeah.
And then, of course, Iomi loses a fingertip, has to keep his strings really loose, drops it down to D or D and a half. And all of a sudden, he's playing these looser strings, and it's coming out heavier and heavier. It's as old as the story of Chuck Berry or Ike Turner or any one of those guys getting something stuck in their amplifier, and then it became fuzzy. It's mythological.
Yeah. Well,
It
and on
really
this
is.
album, they apparently tuned down. I mean,
Yeah,
this was like the studio, like they actually had time in the studio for
yeah,
once,
yeah.
and they wanted to have a different sound, and so that's kind of the magic of Master of Reality. But I would love to talk a little bit about Ozzy. Um, I I'm really late to the game here, honestly, but he has so much power and charisma as a
Hmm.
front man, just born to play this role, right? He's
Wow.
lovable,
Yep.
he's scary, he's unpredictable. Um, I mean, what can you say? One of the great rock musicians of all time.
Yeah, and let's not forget, I got to bring up my interesting theory here. Ozzy himself was quoted as saying that what was the Beatles, made his world go from black and white to color.
Mm,
So it was literally the Beatles that he just made him want to make music.
that's
And
cool.
I think Ozzy Osbourne or John Osbourne was a John Lennon fanatic. I mean, he donned the circular glasses, was very countercultural like John Lennon, was very, didn't take no guff from no one, and lived his own life and had, more Eastern ways of thinking, I believe, in his head. And I think he was kind of like a tribute in some weird degree in his own mindset. I don't know what the internet will feel about that, but I feel it's true. Look at the songwriting. Look at even how he was, how he. I mean, it's hard not to think there's at least some John Lennon there.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. I mean, coming out of England and,
Yeah.
the time when they did.
Yeah, the that impact, of that Beatles. Just like the impact, it sounds funny to say they were a blues band, but that was the huge scene in England. England didn't shy away from just doing the blues, the John Mayall, I think.
Yeah.
Mayall, yeah. And Clapton, all those guys, Jimmy Page, all those guys were doing the blues, and that was the thing, was to do Muddy Water. Like the Stones are literally named after a Muddy Water song. They're just doing Chess Records covers. And that was the scene. And that was the scene that started this band.
Yep. And then they happened to go see the horror movies playing across the street, and they were like, I know,
Yeah, it
bring in the tritone.
purely, I think that first album, and keep in mind, it's hard for me to pick, but at certain points I've had the first album as my favorite. It does kind of stand alone. It's more of a spooky album. There's not as much, classic metal riffs that are influential on it. But yeah, they were really going for essentially what I assume was Hammer Horror, which is a production company, Christopher Lee and whatnot. And I think they're like, let's try this. We've tried this and this. I mean, it's funny. What if they were still called Earth?
Well, talking about Ozzy, one of my favorite YouTube channel is Adam the Woo, and Adam happened to be in Hollywood the day that Ozzy died, and his episode was really touching because he just kind of let the camera roll, but kind of went to Ozzy's star on the Walk of Fame, and
Mhm.
when a
Wow.
celebrity dies, it's like that's kind of the public visitation in a weird way nowadays, and people gather there, and it was just a really, I don't know, it was there wasn't any, no one was putting on any airs. It wasn't anything formal. It wasn't anything super, I don't know, heavy, but it just was a really amazing moment to see the impact that one person has had on just so many strangers. And they all came
Yeah.
together and they were just kind of existing in that space, and it was touching to see.
Well, I don't think many people have done it like how Ozzy did it in a while, like where he knew he was done, and he's like, I'm gonna have this big show. And a lot of people thought, wow, this is great. He's having this big show. But deep down it was like, no, this is for me. He couldn't really get about anymore, and he was just done with things and was calling it quits, so to speak. Apparently euthanized in Switzerland where it's legal. I don't know. I don't know how widely that's out there, but I think he just did things like he did his life. He called them by his own shots, and I mean, what a way to go! Raising $191 million for charity, all donated to charity, and then just having this amazing concert. A lot of the younger bands that we grew up with performing, and then even younger still. And I got a real sense of community, almost like I
Yeah.
got here in Willits when I did this little festival for Willits. Multi-generational, the young to the very old, and that's important. And politicians can't do that.
Yeah.
So, it's just an amazing thing that it happened. And the concert was absolutely amazing. I was very fond of this guy Youngblood's cover of Changes. He apparently told them, he said, "Give me the ballad." And he did it. He wanted the ballad, he got the ballad. So check out Youngblood Changes. Really strong vocal.
Yeah. Incredible. I mean, you sent it to me and I loved it.
Yeah, it's there's powerful things going on right now because times are tough, and you know, I think Ozzy didn't just say, "Hey, I'm checking out." So later guys, I think it was more like, let's create almost like, I mean, it was better than Coachella, or like, I don't have any grand visions of what Woodstock was. It seems like it would have been uncomfortable and terrible to me. But the Ozzy farewell thing, amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Really cool. Well, can we talk about Master of Reality? What?
Yeah. Let me run through a couple things here really quick. I did take some notes here. Okay. We'll start off with I guess what at the time is the most controversial, but here in California, not too controversial. This album starts off with a guy coughing.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, Sweet Leaf is probably outside of Cheech and Chong, maybe the biggest marijuana anthem I've ever heard. It's not an Iommi song. I assume Ozzy wrote the lyrics. The band was known, as many heavy bands or quote unquote stoner bands, to use cannabis, as we say here in California. But the funniest thing about this track is, do you know the sample of the opening guitar riff?
The sample of the opening guitar riff. I'm trying to
Yep.
dun dun. Is it like Beastie Boys or something?
Yep, rhyming and stealing with the drums, so you can almost hear Rick Rubin's stamp on that first album. Because this is the first track on License to Ill. And Rick Rubin is what? He's a heavy metal guy.
Okay.
So he's using the beginning to Sweet Leaf because it's isolated, right? So the track's isolated so he can use that. And then he's using the drums from When the Levee Breaks when it's isolated.
Okay.
So that is rhyming and stealing, as it so aptly says.
That's great. I love it. Yeah,
So
it's a cool song. I like it a lot. It's a good opener. Like for me, as much as I love the original, the self-titled album, and I do, and it's probably their best. Like I'm not always in the mood for the whole bells and tritone and you know what I mean? Like sometimes you just want a good like riff to kick it off. And that's what this
yeah.
one does.
Oh yeah. No, that's definitely the case. A very, very, very classic song. And I'm gonna do a little bit of lyric quoting here. We have come on now, try it out. Straight people don't know what you're about. I love you, Sweetleaf. So Ozzy way ahead of the curve there. 50 so years or whatnot, but at least here in California. So I think it's a great opener. And
Oh, me too.
for an album titled Master of Reality, I mean, it kind of sums up a lot. And it's where Black Sabbath usually gets the nods to being the godfathers of doom metal or stoner metal or whatever you want to call it, the
Yeah,
heavier, sludgier stuff.
sure.
But then we're going on a whole different journey, Mike. Number two, I believe you're a fan.
Oh
After
yeah.
Forever by Iommi.
In my dreams, Casey, in my dreams, I want to play the song at youth group.
There you go. Yeah.
This
Well,
is this is Mike's take. This album, I know that they were known as being like supposedly Satanists or whatever. I don't really get where that came from, honestly.
exactly.
But this is a Christian album. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
Christian stoner rock, let's put it that way, because you do
Yep.
have Sweetleaf, but like the rest of it, certainly After Forever. I mean, this is like Sunday school stuff. This is,
Yep. Lord of this World too. Both of those
yeah,
are labeled as Christian heavy metal.
Christian
Or
heavy metal, and nobody knows
Mhm.
this. I'm like, do you realize this is like as Christian as it gets?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that when asked about, pe people would attack Black Sabbath on various things, like you said, satanic stuff or whatnot. But apparently, for Naomi and Osborne, that's when they started wearing the big crosses, is to ward people away. And then they write songs like this, and you end up with much more, maybe not Christian music, but Christian lyrical content than most Christian bands.
Totally. I mean, this
So
is like heaven and hell stuff. Like,
it is. It is. It's interesting. And After Forever is a great song. Really talks about faith and of course the afterlife, and it's just heavy with Christian overtones. I mean it's quite the album.
well, and don't forget Into the Void, which we may get there, but that song, have you looked at those lyrics? It's
Yeah.
basically like if we leave behind all this horrible satanic stuff and we create a
Mhm.
new,
Yeah.
planet of love.
Yep, yep, yep. Very heavy looking band with a heavy reputation. Very, like I said, very hippie lyrics here. It's just how it is. I think some of their music just purely comes out of where they were from. England can be so bleary, and Birmingham and all the rain and all the industrial factories.
Yeah.
It's easy to see, where their their whole projection of their career really came from.
Yeah. Well, and I
So,
kind of get the sense, I could be wrong about this, but it seems like a Catholic worldview or a
yeah,
Catholic um like you're not getting this stuff out of Protestant music, at least not in
no,
the
no,
90s and 80s and 90s. But this was it's super interesting to me because not many bands that I know of were doing this in 1971 and people have no idea. But I'm like,
yeah.
this would totally fit a church service if you could ever find a band that could actually pull it off.
I'm trying to find a really astute line here. I've got the lyrics, but
Yeah.
perhaps you'll think before you say that God is dead and gone, open your eyes. Just realize that He is the one, the only one who can save you now from all this sin and hate. I mean, it's yeah. It sounds like a sermon, so.
I'm just saying, I don't know how I'll ever find other musicians willing to do this with me, but it's my dream.
Well, I mean, it doesn't seem impossible. And we're still on side one here. That was only track two. Then we have a small instrumental. I think maybe not as great as the second, but Embryo, really nice little rolling kind of classical flamenco almost style guitars. Iomi again.
Palette cleanser.
Beautiful, beautiful. What was that?
Palette cleanser.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm gonna have to go out on a limb here. Did I say Sweetleaf was my favorite? Because that's definitely not true. Children of the Grave, which possibly some people consider the greatest Black Sabbath song of all time.
You know what I love in this song? I love the like army drums because
Yes.
it's not just the kit. I was like at first I thought it was the bass like ringing like because when you play the bass like
Uh-huh.
this, it can really go but
Yeah.
it sounds like a rattling and I was like, "Oh, that's like an overdub of like a battle drum." It's super cool.
It it is insane. I don't know. I don't, but it's just like it's got like delay, but I don't think it's actual delay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, and the song just, well, I mean, it's got its own unique momentum to it, and it does feel the most like your classics, like your second album, like your War Pigs,
Yeah.
certainly, or Iron Man, or Paranoid, or any of those big hits. but it stands out alone. Like I think the California Jam Sabbath did in the '70s, which is a really great performance because they're playing under a giant rainbow, and Ozzy's got like purple fringe. But yeah, this song they just destroy on that. So, and it's like 80,000 people or something, like a sea of people. So
It's riff city, you know what I mean? And then that
it is.
the drum hit where, I mean, how can you not want to air drum along with this song?
It's too true. I mean, it. I think it's for me. It's my fave on here, and it's the one that I think is the single. I'm
I
not
think
sure if
so,
I have
yeah.
the.
I think you're right.
It certainly should be. If I'm wrong about that, I'm sorry, but it certainly should be.
And look, I
Um,
like Led Zeppelin as much as the next guy, but this is so much better than Led Zeppelin.
It is, and I think it's pretty universal between the two. One is ripping, actually, literally ripping off a lot of old blues songs and making it heavier. But it seems like Black Sabbath isn't drawing from so much material that exists. It seems like
Yeah.
they're drawing more on their own experiences, the experiences of what they faced being a big band with a spooky theme, the
Yep.
experiences that people, kind of projected back at them, and all that, which, bands hadn't done that kind of stuff, you know. Now there's like, I'm really into the band called Ghost, and they're, incredibly spooky imagery and like, a lot of Catholic overtones and an amazing group. Actual guy from Ghost was drumming on that Youngblood performance, but I go on a small tangent, so I apologize. Let's check out side two, which starts with no raucous, crazy riffs, but Orchid, an incredibly dense and lush and beautiful instrumental. And again, this is a thing with heavy metal. And this probably is one of the first like bona fide heavy metal records we've done. But, heavy metal likes to do really hard and then they like to do really, really soft. And
Yep.
that's pretty much normal. I don't know if Black Sabbath's inventing it here, but Orchid is absolutely amazing.
It makes it for a
Uh,
great listening experience, start to finish, play the whole side,
yeah,
like you don't have to cherry pick hits. Like it's very satisfying because you kind of get in this mode just for a little bit. It lulls you into this listening mode, and then all of a sudden it just makes the riff jump so much more.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And then we go into the other Christian metal song. I have it in my notes. If you hadn't brought it up, I would have brought it up. Lord of the World, which is kind of looking back from the viewpoint of the devil. And essentially, he's singing from a satirical element of the devil and, these people falling for his, ploys and the world and possessions and all that stuff is in this song.
Yeah,
So really interesting.
it's
Uh,
great.
and then we move into Solitude, which is pretty tranquil. It really reminds me of, say, like, Planet Caravan off the first Sabbath album, which
Yeah.
is a lot like the Stooges' We Will Fall. You get these kind of hippie drum circle songs. You're the same as Led Zeppelin's No Quarter.
hmm
You get these weird psychedelic, slower songs. I feel like Solitude's in that vein.
Yeah, and again, people don't know this. Like they don't like casual people that don't even know who Black Sabbath is or just heard the name would have no idea of how like hippie drum circle it is. You're absolutely
Right.
right. It's
No, for
it's
sure.
and it's bluesy and like it's all these there's so many flavors to this band. It's not just Iron Man. And I think when I
Yeah.
was just getting into them, that's what I thought. It was just a
Yeah.
bunch of Iron Man riffs, which is
Well, I'm
they're great. I love them. Don't get me
yeah.
wrong, but it's a way more complex and deep than that.
I think I think War Pigs goes down as their biggest song and certainly most relevant song. You want to talk about a hippie song, anti-war, anti-bombs, and all that. But I mean, Iron Man is that one that does sound so weird. And I know it's, I guess, not about Iron Man the cartoon, but Iron Man in the Marvel universe is very popular these days. Um, but I mean, I don't know where I'm going with this. I don't know. It's so great. We got one track, Into the Void. I have heavy riff, epic, Leave Earth. Hell, I don't know. I don't even know what I've written here. I think I gave up, but
Well, it's just cool. Like Into the Void with a name like that, you would think that it's about, oblivion and just like aimlessness and, nihilism, but it's really not. It's like this longing for a better world. And
yep, yep,
this is Black Sabbath and this is the
yep.
content of their songs. It's so cool to me.
It really is. I think that I think you're right. Most beginners with the Iron Man and whatnot don't realize the depth of Sabbath's music and uh songwriting, but I think it's out of the box now. This podcast, this is not the flame, okay? We're not blowing any secrets up here. Most people know how great Black Sabbath is. There was a bumper sticker campaign in the 90s that just said listen to Black Sabbath. So something was going on. Uh I've been a huge fan for a long time, and they are kind of the godfather of heavy metal, you
Yeah.
know,
And a
because
well-deserved status.
yeah, they say almost every type of genre came from Black Sabbath. So I don't know about that, but it's a great starting point. It really is.
I mean, to me, this band and this album may be their best. It's hard to say. I mean, honestly, listening
People
to
think
listening to Paranoid last night,
hmm
which
super good.
thank you for sending me this. I mean, War
Yep.
Pigs, the musicianship is just
Yep.
astonishing. And they recorded it in like an hour, like they were all completely live recording this. It's crazy. To
Yep.
me, if you're looking at like the epic bands, the Mount Rushmore of rock,
hmm
I would put Sabbath up there above anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Sabbath. I mean, the Sabbath and the Zeppelin, and Pink Floyd. Uh, you know,
But as
that's
far as a satisfying experience, like I
mhm.
could put on, I mean, any of the first three, but like I could put this on and never want it to end. And I would
Yeah.
say same with Master of Reality. Master of Reality is a little bit further afield lyrically,
Yeah.
whereas in a weird way, Paranoid is almost like the ultimate. But we can have this
hmm
debate.
Well, a lot of people absolutely swear by the first six Black Sabbath albums. It's literally a t-shirt. And then there are also the people that are like the first four. Well, I
Yeah.
would actually argue that since this one is produced by Roger Bain, and so are the first two, I kind of feel like it's the first three, and then there's the second three. So the second three, Volume 4, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and Sabotage, are definitely more akin to modern heavy metal. They're all great, and I even like their seventh and eighth album, but we won't go into that. I like the stuff with Dio, but we won't go into that. But I think it's the first three when you talk about Sabbath, and then there's a next three, which I like to include for sure.
Yeah.
But that's
For
how I
me,
break it up.
for me, it's the stuff I love the most is the bluesy
Yeah,
influence. And
yeah,
that's
earlier,
very prominent on the early ones.
100%. So yeah, Ozzy has left us. He did it by on his own means, and you know, I mean, what a way to go! What a way to do it. Everyone, I think, wants to have a chance to say goodbye to everyone they love, and to give thanks for the people that were fans and all this stuff. And what a way to do it! I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of unbelievable the more you think about it, because he did know about it,
Yeah.
and we didn't.
Right. Well, and what an
So
influence and what a great way to go out and raise all that money. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
amazing.
All righty. Well, that was very enjoyable.
Well, we'll go back to the super obscure stuff soon, but we had to mention we had to give our respect to Ozzy.
That's right. I'm getting ready for the next episode here.
Oh no. All right, guys. Thank you. See you soon.